Hey, what's up, y'all? Death Lotus here. Welcome to my channel. And I thought I'd do a review for Eversoul, a game that I've been playing now for 3 months now. 3 months and a few weeks. I've been playing the game ever since it launched, which was back in January 5th. And yeah, I thought I'd give my thoughts and opinions on the game and what I believe that the developers can do better, or the things that I like about the game. So let's get to it. Eversoul is a idle gacha game developed by Kakao Games, which they've also developed Arcade, World Flipper, Eternal Return. I think another prominent one would be Guardian Tales. This is another one of their successful IPs. But the one that I'm more familiar with is Arcade, which is the game that I played on PC a very long time ago. And that game was actually pretty cool. Eversoul was released globally, so you can download it right now. And you can download it on either iOS or Android devices. You could also play the game on PC via the Google Play Games Beta. However, I kind of don't recommend that the Google Play Games Beta, just because they don't have a lot of games that they're supporting right now. So you're honestly better off just downloading an emulator like either BlueStacks, Nox Player, LD9, and there's another one, I think it's called Momo or something like that. But the one that I'm using is actually LD9, because for some reason BlueStacks is just not running as efficiently as I want it to be. I get like frame rate losses here and there, and just the performance overall on BlueStacks is just worse to me compared to LD9. So mileage will vary. I would try downloading one of each and seeing which one plays better for you. As for Kakao Games in Eversoul, so far they've been doing actually pretty good. They have been communicating their roadmaps pretty well, and all the events and the future souls that are supposed to be coming out. The other thing too is Kakao Games has been extremely generous with compensations and rewards, due to downtimes or maybe mechanics in the game that they felt were meant to be redone or something like that. Like every event so far has had some kind of rework, and they've compensated players pretty generously with them. They've also been giving out a lot of like multiple currency and whatnot. Like currently right now they're having a 100-day event where they're giving people a multiple every single day for I think 10 days or something like that. And you also get your free one summon as well. So every day you're getting 11 summons, which is insane. You never hear gacha games allowing players to get multiples on a daily basis, or maybe 2 or 3 extra multiples on a weekly basis. So they've been really good with handing out rewards and being generous with players. As for the community, they also seem to share the same sentiments that I have as far as Kakao Games as a developer. No one seems to be really on edge about them, unlike the most recent travesty with Crunchyroll, where they're just creating games and abandoning them. So Kakao Games isn't that company, so you can rest easy knowing that Eversoul's going to be here for a while. So I believe Eversoul's in the right hands. I think that Kakao Games has what it takes to keep this game running for some time. I'm not going to say that it's gonna be running indefinitely. So we'll see how things go and how Kakao Games treats its players over time. But so far, I've been pretty pleased with them. As for my experience in Eversoul, I have 2 accounts. One of them is my main account, which is what I consider my whale account. Spent a lot of money on that account, and I've finished everything. Just recently finished doing all the chapter 19 stages and finished all the gates. Now I haven't finished all the new gates that just recently came out, but for the most part I finished all the content that's available except for the new stuff. And then my second account is an alt account that I have where I spent $1. I wanted to see how far I could get in the game by being practically free to play. I mean, it's $1 spent. It's not exactly free to play, but it's almost there. I got pretty far. I got to about chapter 1850. I did a lot of the towers, got up to 100, trying to currently beat 125, but it's a little harder being a $1 account, but that's usually how it is. You spend little, you get rewarded a little. And the crazy thing is, pretty caught up with my main account almost there. I don't have as many ascended units, and my artifacts is something I'm working on currently on that alt account. But for the most part, I have experience on both fields, and I think that that's a great way for me to share that knowledge with other players, because I actually ascended myself pretty quickly, considering that my alt account isn't actually a day 1 account. It's about 2 weeks from launch late. Now, I'd like to talk about my experience with video games and what I'm looking for in video games, and more so kind of a history, I guess, of games that piqued my interest, because I feel like with this game it's pretty important, and I'll get into that right now. I actually don't consider myself a gacha gamer, because I just don't have that rich history of playing gacha games. As a matter of fact, I've only played 3 of them, and Eversoul is one of those 3. The first gacha game that I ever played was Sidorica, and that came out like 4 or 5 years ago. And then after that, I played another game called Sinnoh Ellis, and that was probably about 2 years during COVID when I played that game. And now Eversoul. So because of that, I don't have much of experience with other gacha games. This is actually, I think, my first idle game. I don't recall if Sidorica was an idle game. I don't think it was. I think there was a lot of manual play in that game. So being that this was my first idle game, I gained some knowledge from other players through Discord and Reddit about how other idle games work and the differences between Eversoul and other idle games. Now that I've told you that, I mean, don't click off the video yet. There's a reason for this, and I'm going to get into it. Just hold your horses just a second here, alright? Now I'm going to talk about my history as a gamer, and I consider myself more so a PC gamer. I focus mainly on MMORPGs, multiplayer games with either co-op or PvP in them, mostly arena style. The other thing is survival builders. I love survival builders. Games like Conan Exiles, Minecraft, Valheim, stuff like that. The other one would be open world multiplayer games. I love those types of games. And I'm not too much of a single player gamer. Yeah, I stick to mostly co-op and PvP type games where people communicate and whatnot. So that's a bit of a history of me. Now you might be asking yourself, why the hell is he mentioning this history? Well, let's get into that. Now, Eversoul being an idle game, it has some actually differences in other idle games that I've noticed and from what the community have been pointing out. For example, Eversoul doesn't have a stamina system or energy system like in other idle games, where if you are progressing stages or chapters, what have you, you're not inhibited by progressing those stages because you don't have any stamina. So those games, you have 20 stamina, you have to use 10 of your stamina, and after you expand all your stamina, you can't progress the stages anymore. Hell, even some of them have dailies where you have to use your stamina to do your dailies. Well, Eversoul doesn't have that. Eversoul allows you to do these stage progressions as much as you can. There is no stamina system, and that to me is freaking amazing. I couldn't stand having to do a few stages a day and be told, yep, you can't do it until you either fork over some cash or you wait till tomorrow for your stamina to come back. Now, that doesn't mean that you can continue to progress the stages, because obviously there are roadblocks, and the main roadblock is just your power level. That's about it. Whether your artifacts are not leveled high enough, whether your character is not leveled up high enough, or maybe you just don't have the right team. There is some sort of roadblock there, but at least you know that you can RNG the mechanics in a sense, where you can redo the stage over and over again until you hit the right crits or you don't miss as often, and you can beat that stage. And then who knows, maybe the next stage is a little easier, or maybe a little bit harder. But there is that roadblock. There is always that roadblock, but at least it's not a roadblock that's being put in place by some sort of gimmicky stamina system. The other thing that's different from other idle games is that there is no sort of penalty system for being undergeared. So, for example, if you were trying to progress a stage where the enemies are like 100 or 200 levels above you, and it shows that your gear score is too low, you're not penalized for that, like in other idle games. For example, I think Nikkei has one where it's like 40% or something like that. Like you're 40% weaker for trying to progress stages and stuff. Hell, even the recent one is Higgin Irithyll, who does something like that. Although I think Higgin isn't a idle game, but yeah, there's no system like that in place in Eversoul, which is a huge plus. So this goes hand in hand with what I was mentioning about with my history, and the reason why I mentioned my history, as you may recall, I do play a lot of online multiplayer games, and I do like playing games that keep my attention for a very long time, and Eversoul has been doing that. Eversoul has kept my attention for 3 months now, and I haven't played another game. So you can make Eversoul your main game if you like, which is pretty crazy for a gacha game, in my opinion, especially after playing the other 2 gacha games that I played, where you're inhibited by all these other mechanics and stuff. But it's a good point to bring up because apparently some folks in the gacha community don't like that. Don't like to have a game that occupies too much of their time. And man, that's pretty alien to me. Like I don't understand how that would be a complaint, but it's a valid complaint, and I think it's something to mention in about Eversoul. Eversoul can occupy a lot of your time, but the thing is, you have the choice to put in how many hours or minutes that you want to put into a game. And Eversoul is an idle game. You do not have to be putting in hours on end to complete the content. And that's one thing that I cherish about Eversoul, is that you have that luxury, that freedom of choosing how much time you put into the game without the game telling you need to stop right now because you can't beat the stage because you're too under geared, or you can't beat the stage because you don't have the energy to progress anymore. So play at your own pace. If you can't put in too much time into the game, then just don't put in too much time. Do just a few of your dailies and let the idle portion of the game take care of the rest. So apart from no stamina system in place, there is also another nifty feature that Eversoul has. I'm sure another gacha game has this feature as well, but there's a sort of a friend summoning system where you can add a friend, whether they're random or someone that you're going to be playing Eversoul with. You can add that person, and you can actually use their souls in your party. Now, granted, there is a limit. You can only use 5 of those souls per day, and you can't use a carbon copy of each other. For example, you can't use 3 Chloes. You can only use the strongest unit that's available to you, and yeah, the rest are gonna have to be something different. But it's really neat that there's that sort of helper system in place where if you're having trouble with the stage, you at least have that system in place where you can summon a stronger unit to help you out. And this kind of goes into what I want to talk about next, which is that Eversoul is very friendly to all spenders, whether you're a spender or you're not a spender. For example, free-to-play players can find out that if there's a particular unit that's coming out later on, if they save the Everstones, they're able to get that unit pretty easily by their pity system. So let's take for example Aki, a unit that just came out. Let's say Aki's coming out next, and Aki's pickup banner comes up. Well, in that pickup banner, that soul has a higher chance of being obtained. So I think on average it's 1.6% chance. And let's say you get unlucky after 80 pulls, which is 8 multi-pulls. Well, the game has a pity system where after 80 pulls, you get that unit guaranteed, which is amazing. Well, I heard of other gacha games where you can pull, all the way up to 150, 200, and there's a pity system in place, but you have to pull a lot in order for you to get a copy of that soul. So you get a pity at 80, 200, and 300. And at 300, you actually get 2 copies of that unit. So yeah, there's a really good chance you can get your units ascended pretty far. And not only that, but Eversoul also has another nifty thing where whenever a new unit comes out in Eversoul, that unit can be put in every other summoning system in place. So for example, there's the normal summoning, there's the type summon, there's the friendship summon, and then there's pickup summon. And then there's also the shards as well, which you can get either epic or rare shards. And you get a random chance of getting a rare or epic unit. Now, the thing that's really nice is that whenever a new unit comes out, that new unit is placed in each one of those systems in place. So, for example, Aki again. If Aki just came out and you have, let's say, 150 summoning tickets, you have a chance of actually getting Aki in the normal summons. You have a chance of getting Aki in the friendship summons, which is insane. I mean, you don't hear that too often in other gacha games. In other gacha games, they make it exclusive. You can only get that new unit in this banner. That's it. Well, Eversoul says, screw that. You can have this unit, if you get lucky, in these other banners, which is insane. So that's why I'm saying this game is very free-to-play friendly. You get, on a monthly basis for a free-to-play player, I'm getting this from the Pridewin website, by the way. You can get 92 summon tickets per month, 8 type summon tickets, 36 artifact tickets, 240 friendship summons, well, currency, not summons, and then 11,440 Everstones, which is about 54 pulls. So that's pretty insane, to be honest with you. Like, that's a lot of multi-pulls in 1 month, and I know there's gacha games that are far less generous with the amount of summons that you can do. And that's not counting the events that happen. Like, there's a lot of events that give you, like, straight up just characters, souls, for free. The last 3 events gave you a copy of a soul without putting any money into the game, which is, again, another crazy thing, and it's another reason why it's free-to-play friendly. Now let's go on the other spectrum for someone who is a light spender or a heavy spender, aka a whale. Those players are rewarded generously for the packs that they purchase. And one of the things that I like about Eversoul is that there's no animosity for spenders, to be honest with you, because of the whole borrow a friend system that they have in place. I mean, you're welcome to spend money in the game. So, I mean, that means that the free-to-play players are rewarded for other people who have been spending. And that's freaking awesome. The other thing, too, is there's this sort of a world-first achievement system in place where, the people who spend the most money are able to progress the content as quickly as possible. Whoever gets to the top rank, they're rewarded for that. But also, guess who else? Everyone else in the game is rewarded for people spending money. It's freaking insane. Out of the other games that I've played, I've never had a game where people were rewarded. Just the general public is rewarded for someone else's spending, and that's freaking awesome. So that's why I feel that Eversoul is one of those unique games where everyone is being treated, with fairness and kindness. Obviously, the spenders are going to be the ones going to be progressing faster than the free-to-play players. That's just how it is. I mean, someone who spends $1,000 should get there faster than someone who hasn't. With that being said, there is nothing pay to win in this game. I know that this is one of those things where people have their differences of opinion on what is considered pay to win and what is not. For me, if you're paying to progress faster, that's not pay to win. What's pay to win is buying stuff that actually makes your character do more damage. For example, a sword you can only buy in the cash shop for $50 or more, or maybe even a really rare 0.001% weapon that gives your character some crazy stat boosts, and you can only get it through spending money. That is pay to win. If there isn't a system in place where you can't get that same weapon without some sort of pity system, but other than just rolling over and over again by spending money, that's pay to win in my opinion. And not a system where you're spending money just so you can progress faster. I mean, that's not pay to win. That's just you killing the game faster than it should be, and that's kind of how I feel what some people are doing. So people are spending a lot of money and then they're running out of content and then they're like, oh, well, this game sucks because there's nothing to do. Well, you spent the money to get to that point. I mean, in all fairness, it's kind of your fault, you know? So, you know, spend your money as much as you want, but just understand that the system in place in Eversoul is a spend to save time system, basically. There's nothing pay to win in this game. Now, the other thing to mention is that Eversoul has some stunning graphics. Not the best graphics. I've seen some gacha games out there that have better graphics, but not the worst either. And it's up there with the anime style. Not something that bothers me, but I know it bothers some people, that it's anime style graphics and stuff. The animations for attacking and the summoning animations are amazing. There's even victory pose animations. Hell, even the art for each soul is very good. And as far as I've seen so far, each soul has its own unique theme song that it goes with them during the love stories that you unlock, which is pretty neat. And then there's also the personality itself, the personality of each soul, whether they're in town and they're talking to you, or whether they're on their ever talk. Yeah, there's just so much creativity put into this game that, you know, every little detail makes a difference in building a world for Eversoul. So now that I'm done gleaming and saying my appraisals about Eversoul, ooh, this is a perfect game, 10 out of 10. Well, there are some faults in this game, and that's what I'm going to be going over next. One of the plaguing issues with Eversoul right now is its performance. I mostly play on the emulator, and I do believe that a lot of the performance issues is because the emulators are not performing well, but there are other gacha games that are on the same emulators that are running just perfectly fine. So there's some sort of optimization issue that's going on with Eversoul that's causing the emulators not to work properly. When I do play the game on my phone, it tends to run a bit smoother, but there are times where, like, for example, when you go into town, your township, the game sort of chugs. The frame rate is noticeably low. There's also this annoying connecting issue. Oh my god, it is so freaking annoying, and it's twice as bad for people who are playing from like different regions. Let's say, for example, if you're playing from EU and you're connecting to the NA servers, it is so much worse for those players, man. What I'm talking about is whenever you're transitioning screens, let's say when you're going from the main lobby to, oh, I don't know, the Battlefront page, there's this freaking connecting like message that pops out like 4 or 5 times before you can actually interact with anything on the window. And honestly, it's only a few seconds, but god damn, when you're trying to transition through multiple pages, let's say you're trying to level up a unit, that freaking connecting message coming up all the time, like multiple times, is so infuriating, especially when you're trying to retry a stage, or you're trying to, you know, you're having trouble with the stage and then you have to go back and de-level a unit and then re-level a unit. That connecting thing just buys and takes up so much of your time, and it's just, again, it's only a few seconds, but those few seconds accumulate over time. So what would usually take a second could take you like 15-20 seconds. So it's honestly, it's kind of something nitpicky, but it's still an annoyance for a lot of players. Also, there was a recent event where the frame rate and the performance was so freaking bad in that event that some players actually decided just not to do it, because either they couldn't do it because of the performance, or it's just the performance is so bad that they just didn't want to attempt it. And that was the spring event, where you would go into this arena, and that's where you would have all of your souls that you've unlocked to come and help you in this sort of wave style fight, where you would fight all these creatures that come at you from different corners of the map. And the performance was incredibly bad. Like, whether it was on my phone or on the emulator, the frame rate was just chugging like crazy. and it got even worse when there was like 20 or 30 enemies on the screen, man. It was pretty bad. And so that's something that for sure is Eversoul needs to fix. Cacao Games, to be exact. They need to really nail the performance on the game and make transitioning to the screens just better. I mean, the most recent game that I played was Blue Archive, and that game was just flawless. You went from menu to menu, and there was no hitches. Another game that I played for a few days was Nikkei, and the same thing happened with that game. When I played Genshin Impact years ago, it was the same thing. There was like no hitching whatsoever. So I don't know, man. They got to do something to fix the performance issue in this game, because it's definitely one of the worst parts of Eversoul. The other thing that kind of comes up pretty often within the community, and I somewhat have a difference in opinion, but for the most part, I'm on point with everyone else, and that's the content. Eversoul doesn't have a lot of content compared to other idle games, to be honest with you. There's Battlefronts, which is basically the main story progression page. There are towers where you can attack an unlimited tower, but at some point you're going to hit that limit, which I've already hit that limit as well. And once you complete that tower, you have nothing else to do. The same thing goes for the type towers, which, for example, if there's a human one, there's a fairy tower, there's an undead tower, and then there's a beast tower. And even though those towers are pretty challenging, once you complete those towers, there's nothing else to do. Once you finish the Battlefronts, once you finish the towers, it's literally just logging on every day to do dailies. So there needs to be something else into the game. They did recently add in guild raids, which kind of helps with the content, but it's kind of weird. So the guild raids happen for 1 week, and then they go on like a 2 or 3 week cooldown, and then another guild raid happens. So content is definitely something that Eversoul absolutely needs to keep players engaged and stuff. And for the players who are free to play, I mean, I think they have plenty of time to do all the content that's currently in the game. But for people who are light spenders or heavy spenders, I think they're at that point where they don't have anything else to do, and that's either a good thing or a bad thing. For me, again, personally, I don't have a problem with that. I do my dailies, I do a couple of stages, and then I just leave. And then the other downer is there's no other voice lines. Like, there's only Korean voice packs. That's it. There's no English, there's no French, there's no German, there's nothing else but Korean or nothing at all. So I know for a lot of players that is a huge downside, and a lot of players will not play a game that do not support their native language in as far as like voice lines is concerned, and rightfully so. I mean, hopefully later on they could include something like that, but I don't know, man. It seems like it's a long ways away, and this kind of goes into my next point about Eversoul, which is this game was absolutely rushed out the gate. 100%. Eversoul was not supposed to come out on January 5th. If anything, Eversoul was supposed to come out at the end of the year, or hell, even next year, with the current state that it's in. Now, everything seems to be working more functionally now, but man, with the whole performance issues, with like only Korean localization and stuff, and there is English text and all that, but there's no other voice lines, not a lot of content. I mean, man, yeah, the game was 100% just rushed out. Now, whether that was because of the investors who wanted to push out these games, because we've seen this before. We've seen where investors have a huge influence on game launches, and this, I mean, I could only assume that that's what happened here with Eversoul. And I mean, it sucks, but hey, the game is out. It is what it is. The developers are working to fix the game and to bring more content out. Now, it's going to take some time, but I know for sure we're going to get there. Now, this next complaint is a personal complaint, and that's that there's no males in the game. I know it's freaking weird. Like, bro, what's wrong with you, man? You don't like girls? What, you only like men in games? Yeah, actually, I do like guys in the game, because one of the things that I don't like about Eversoul, first of all, let me mention, All the characters in Eversoul, all the souls that you summon, are all females. I didn't mention that earlier, and I apologize for that, but yeah, there's nothing but females in this game. And that's a good thing or a bad thing for some people. For me personally, with how the story has been developing, with how the souls have been treating the main character, which is the savior, with an annoying amount of love, compassion, support, and lewdness. And I know that that sounds weird for it to be a complaint, but guys, bro, I need some freaking testosterone in my games. I don't need all of these girls to be goo goo gaga over me. There needs to be more unapologetic rudeness. The story needs to be more fierce. Like, enough with this niceness. A good example of this, which was a really good soul that came out, is Valana. Valana freaking hates the main character, which they call the savior. And she hates him for a specific reason, which you'll learn in her love story. And I love it. I love that kind of grittiness, and there needs to be more of it. More characters like Valana. Enough of this love until death do us part bullcrap that's going on. Let's see more action in the stories, in the love stories, and stop making the savior feel like he's just some wimp that can't do anything for himself, because that's how the savior's always being treated by all of these souls. Let's also see more souls that, you know, have that bravado, that courage, that strength to fight and keep fighting and stuff, and not be such a ditzy person who can't even lift their own fingernail and stuff. There's just too many cutesy, ditzy girls in the game. There's already plenty of characters in the roster that keep doing this, you know, and it's so annoying. I've literally done almost all of the love stories. I'm missing one of them, and that's Suni. So yeah, I've seen all the stories, I've read the stories, and every one of them has been about the same. There's been some good ones, some bad ones, and some funny ones. But again, I mean, this is my nitpick. It's honestly not that important. So if they don't fix it, or they're not going to fix it, which I highly doubt they're going to do it. It seems like the crowd seems to like that kind of stuff. But I'd like to see more different personalities than what we have. With that being said, I think we're done with this review of Eversoul. I mean, this last portion might sound like I hate the game, but no, I still love this game. There's still so much room for development for this game, and improvement, and I do believe that Cacao Games can pull it off. It's just a matter of them catching up with the content that they planned on releasing, due to the fact that the game was launched a little prematurely. You know, over time they're going to trickle in the content that was missing. So I still have high hopes that Cacao Games is going to be able to pull it off and stuff. Well, we'll see. The other thing I noticed is the game isn't being advertised very much. I haven't seen too many ads being played on YouTube and on other websites and stuff. I don't really frequent websites too often, though, to be able to gauge how much ads are being placed on other websites, but for the most part I just haven't seen Eversoul being placed anywhere. I've definitely seen other games though, but it's a matter of them just optimizing the game. They definitely need to fix that connecting issue that's plaguing the game, and make transitioning through the menus just more seamless, like in other gacha games. So they really got to nail that to make it a more enjoyable experience. Because Cacao Games basically has this dirty, muddy gem that just needs to be cleaned and polished in order for it to shine. It's like the best analogy that I have. That about wraps it up. I hope you guys enjoyed this video. It's a very long video. I try to make it as short as I could, man, but damn, there's just so much to talk about. I've been playing this game for 3 months and some weeks, and it's hard not to talk a lot about the game. I love Eversoul, and I hope the best for it, and I hope it continues to improve on itself, and month by month it seems like they're taking a step in the right direction, and I just hope it doesn't make a mistake. I do plan on making some other videos, like a couple of guides and love story reviews and whatnot. We'll see how things go. Thank you guys for watching. If you like what you've seen, hit the like button, hit subscribe, and hope to see you guys again. Bye.